Hey, the most important thing that you can do for someone that you love is to encourage them to love themselves. To encourage them to start loving themselves. That's the biggest thing that you could do for someone that you love is to encourage them and empower them to love themselves. Because self-love is one of the most important loves. For real, for real. Self-love. God's love is first, and self-love is second. And then the love for others is last. So that's the biggest thing that you should do for somebody that you love is to encourage them to love themselves. The reason why this is important is because if they don't love themselves first, then the likelihood of them loving you consistently and then reciprocating the love that you're giving them and showing them and being towards them, the likelihood of that happening is slim. I always say, a person isn't gonna treat you better than they treat themselves. So in other words, a person is gonna treat you how they treat themselves. A person isn't gonna give you what they're not giving to themselves. You're not gonna get from a person what they're not giving to themselves. So that's what that means when I say a person isn't going to treat you better than they treat themselves. So if a person's not loving themselves, if a person's not encouraging themselves, if a person's not empowering themselves, if a person's not uplifting themselves, if a person's not being compassionate towards themselves, if a person isn't showing themselves empathy, if a person isn't accepting themselves for who they are, then what makes you think that you're going to get that person to? What makes you think you're going to get that from that person? What makes you think you're going to receive all of these forms and aspects of love from this person? Now, you can encourage them to, let me say this. Never mind, actually. I was going to say something else. I lost track of my thinking. So yeah, if you're expecting somebody to give you all of these things and to be all of these ways towards you, then that's not fair to them. Let me say it like that, okay? I had something else that I was gonna say. It happens, y'all. It happens. If it come back to me, I'm gonna bring it up. That's not fair to them because they're not being that towards themselves. So, if anything, if you notice that a person is struggling in their lives when it comes to loving themselves, which is empowering themselves, acknowledging themselves, encouraging themselves, being loving towards themselves, showing love towards themselves, things of that nature. If you notice that that's not the case, then actually you should focus more on, like I said, encouraging them to be these things for themselves. Like your love is going to be, that's going to be the reason for your love, for them to love themselves. So in this case, you won't be so focused on receiving love from them. Now, here's the thing. If they struggling with loving themselves and that results in them being unloving to you, which is being toxic, which is being abusive, which is being belligerent, which is being disrespectful, which is being destructive in your life because they don't love themselves, if that results to them being these ways towards you, then you may have to distance yourself at that point, in this case, in this aspect. Because them not loving themselves is making them, is causing them to treat you bad. See, some people could be struggling with loving themselves, but still be loving, but still be kind, but still be everything that they need to be. But they still can be, they can still show love, they can still be love, they can still express love. And they can still handle you with love. These are the 4 categories of love: expressing, being, showing, and handling. So that's what I described. Some people can still be loving while struggling in their own lives. But some people can't. So you may be talking to a person or in a relationship with a person or connected with a person who isn't that type of person, where if they're struggling in their life, they can still be loving. Some people can't. Some people aren't in that space. So in that case, you may have to distance yourself. You probably should, depending on how bad they're treating you. But I mean, if they treating you bad just anyway, get away, because it gets worse. You shouldn't settle for that. Don't settle for a person's toxic behavior. I don't care how severe or how not severe it is. Toxicity is toxicity. Abuse is abuse. I don't care how severe it's not. It is what it is. So get away. But you'll have to love them from a distance. You'll have to encourage them from a distance. You'll have to empower them from a distance in that case. But some people you may just have to cut off altogether. It just depends on the person. It depends on the situation. So understand that. If you need a personal, if you want to book a session to talk about your personal situation, then you'll have to do that. If what I'm saying doesn't actually apply to your situation, then it means that means you need to book a session with me. If you agree with what I'm saying, and if you need to hear this, but it don't exactly go with everything that you're going through, then just book a session. We could talk about it. But I'm really just giving general advice. This is general. So yeah. For some people, you will have to disconnect yourself altogether from. But like I said, it depends. So yeah, some people can be struggling, right, but still be loving. Some people can be struggling and not be loving. It just depends on who you're dealing with. So understand that the biggest thing you can do for somebody that you love is to encourage them to love themselves. Because if they don't love themselves, then they're not gonna be so loving towards you. And it's not fair for you to expect that from them when you obviously see that they're struggling. The most important thing for them right now is to get themselves back on their feet. And I'm not just saying, making money or getting a job or as far as survival purposes, right? But just also mentally, emotionally, spiritually. There's other aspects of life that you have to consider while living this life. It's not just working. It's not just making money. Those are obviously important things to consider. But it's also other things that you must focus on, and it's also other aspects of life that you must prioritize. You have to be well-rounded. You have to be. Because every aspect is important. And every aspect can either make you or break you. For real, for real. If you're good spiritually, but you're not good mentally, which, I mean, if you're good spiritually, you're going to be good mentally. So that kind of crosses that out. That's why spiritually, you want to make sure you prioritizing your spiritual health. You know what I mean? Like that's like first and foremost, really. So you got spiritual, mental, you got emotional. So you want to make sure you prioritizing your emotional well-being. Because if you may be good, right? You got a job, you working, you making money, but emotionally you suffering. So you're not gonna be focused. It's gonna get in the way of you working, your performance at work, because you emotionally suffering. Physically, if you good emotionally but you bad physically, what? That means you're gonna be having problems. You may be gaining too much weight, or you may be dealing with diseases, or you may be dealing with cancers, or you may be dealing with high blood pressure and things that happen, stress. You know what I mean? Because you're not eating right, or because you're not working out. You don't have a consistent schedule of working out. Things of that nature. So every area of life is important. Every aspect of life is important. You got to be well-rounded. You can't just focus on one thing. You want to get to a point in your life where you can focus on multiple things at once. Or probably not at once, but you want to prioritize everything. You know what I mean? So understand that. Love yourself. Encourage people to love themselves. And then that's how you'll have better relationships. Understanding that people gotta love themselves first. And when people can love themselves first, then it's easier to love others. And actually, you're gonna want to love others because you do love yourself. And so I say, what you giving yourself, how you treat yourself, is how you're gonna treat others. Because if a person, yeah.